What is going on, y'all? This is Pal Nerd, and we are going to be looking at every single revealed card for the new Palworld TCG. So, for this video, we are going to be looking at specifically the red cards. We'll do a section for each one, and then, we'll talk about it as we go along. So far, from what I've been seeing, from what I've been playing myself, I think that the red deck is my favorite. I do have a fun red deck profile that maybe I'll share with you guys that I've been kind of working on myself. And while looking at all of these, I want to talk about my favorites and what I think is going to be best in the meta. And of course, it's so new that, most of us don't know for sure what's going to be the best. Unless you've been, playtesting a lot. I personally haven't been playtesting that much, but yeah, let's get into it. Let's look at every single red card. First, we have Jarmuntide Ignis. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, but yeah, this card is insane. I think it's definitely a 2 or 3 of in each red deck. Maybe even a 1 of, I guess, if you're mixing colors. I have a fun mono red deck idea that I liked using, but definitely mixing colors is probably going to be a stronger strategy. But I don't know. I'll talk about that in a later video. This card here, though, you either pay 3 or you discard 2 cards from hand and you stand the card. So he essentially is a double attacker, very strong. And then strike 4, which is very strong if, as long as your opponent is not hitting a lucky pal. And we got Suzaku, Hellfire Wings. This card is also very good. It is a lucky pal. Personally, I did not like this in my playtest when I was playtesting a mono red deck. Of course, when you deploy this pal, you do 700 damage to another pal your opponent controls. So you're essentially going to be sending your opponent's pal to the graveyard as long as you're doing enough damage to get rid of it. But for the cost, I don't think it's that great as far as a deploy effect. Of course, the other continuous effect is good, but I don't know. As for a lucky pal, since you're only able to run 8 of those, I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't find it as useful as some of the other ones we're going to discuss. Gopfin Ignis. This is pretty solid. It's not too bad. All of your other pals do become pretty strong as a continuous effect, and it's not a very pricey card to summon. So, yeah, definitely a very useful card. Pretty solid here. We have Bushi. Bushi is pretty cool. It's also an interrupt, which can nullify an attack from an incoming, potentially game-ending strike. So, very useful card. And what's cool about it is that you can, when you do summon this, and if the card attacked, you can return it to your hand and then use that interrupt effect, which is pretty cool. So we have Reptiro or Gorger, and this is one of my favorite cards in the deck that I was playing. I do think that the wood consumption deck, with having some of the other cards that let you use that wood to deal damage, I think is very nice. This is a very strong card, 1500 power, 3 strike. It is a bit, a little bit pricey, but the deck that I was playing is based on summoning the gears as well. So I think this card is probably one of the best cards in the deck that I personally liked playing. Then we have Fox Sparks, Light of Courage. This one's okay. It's not great, but these smaller pals like this, I think, are very useful in this specific deck that I was playing because of the structures. The structures are very strong here, so you do want to typically tap one of the smaller guys in order to use those structures. Kitsune, it's a pretty strong card, but personally, I didn't find it to be that useful, especially if you're drawing it early on. It's not too expensive to summon, but it is a little bit higher up. It's not that strong. It does have strike 2, but the fact that you can really only damage a 7 or greater pal, it is a much better later game kind of card. So maybe splashing 1 in a deck is not too bad. Personally, I didn't really care for it too much, but yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be seen some play, but personally, didn't really care for it. Spark It, another cheaper of the pals. It's pretty solid. It does do damage to a standing state pal, which is pretty nice. It does help you get rid of some of the early small guys. And as a cost 3, if you're going second, you can summon them first turn. And we have Univolt, Valiant, Thunderclap. For a 4 cost, it's not too bad because of the strike 2 and the power is pretty decent for, you know, a turn 2, turn 3 kind of a PAL. And it does gain that extra 300, so it becomes essentially a 900 early game attacker, which is it's pretty strong, especially at strike 2. Then we have Ragnarok, which it is one of the lucky pals, and I personally do like this card. Because when you are attacking with this pal, all of the rest of their pals gain 500 attack, and they gain an extra strike, which is very strong. Yeah, I do really like this card. I think it is one of the stronger cards in a red deck, and especially in the deck that I was playing. Ruby Brave Sparks, another good early pal, and even as a late game pal, this one still is pretty strong because not only is it cheap, it can boost one of your other pals by 400, and that 400 can make a very big difference when it comes to later game states. It is a very useful card to have for your structures as well. Flambell, it's a decent card. You know, it does give you the wood for future use, but personally did not find it that useful. So it is one of the cards that I didn't tend to. I didn't like running it in the deck that I was playing. So it is a good card. Just maybe not. It's better to have, I think, one of the other smaller pals, especially at a cost 3. Pyrin, Cinder Steed. This one's pretty solid for a 6 drop, being 1200 and 2 strike. It's not bad. I wish it had some kind of effect. It's not the most useful card, but it's not horrible. I'm sure it's gonna have some play, but personally, again, didn't really use it myself. Blaze Howl is very good. It is one of the nullify attacks pals, and again, pretty strong. 1200, 3 strike. It is a bit of a pricier one, but I do think it is an essential card to play if you're playing an all red deck, or even if you're playing a combo deck. You know, a mixed deck. It is probably one of the better cards to splash in there. Next, we have arguably the mascot of Palworld, and this is Grisbolt. I don't know if that's arguable. Is he the mascot? I don't know, I guess. He was in all the marketing for Palworld, the game, but anyway. Yeah, big guy here, 1600 damage, 4 strike. Definitely easily can be considered the boss monster, or one of the boss monsters of this deck. And as a lucky pal, I found myself running 2 of this guy, since, you know, you have that 8 lucky pal limit. This is something that I feel like you need to have in the deck. It's so strong. You can attack pals in the stand state if you want to, you know, get rid of anything that's problematic that your opponent might be using, you know, every turn. Yeah, very strong card. It's definitely one of the favorites to play in the deck. We have Jolt Hog, which, you know, it's not the greatest, but as a 2 cost pal, it's not too bad. I myself don't really run it in the deck that I'm playing, but you know, it's a decent option. Kelpsy Ignis, it's an okay card. It is fairly strong at 500 for an early pal. If you're going second, you can summon it first turn. I think I only run like 2 of these guys. He's not the best, but you know, it's pretty all right. Fox Parks, a Toasty Hug. This is one of the better nullify cards to play in the deck. It is fairly cheap if you need to summon it, but you definitely typically want to keep this in hand so that you can nullify any battle damage coming your way. Arsox, fairly strong, 800 power, strike 2. On deploy, you get 2 wood. I didn't find myself making too much space for this one, or making really any space for this guy, but it is a very viable option. I may try to play another 1 or 2 of these as well, but yeah, very cool card. And we have Mosanda Lux. This guy, you can consume 2 wood. It gets 500 attack or 500 power. Again, it's not a card that I use myself, but it's not a bad option to run if you're playing, you know, a deck that makes wood and uses that wood to overpower your opponents, or, you know, do damage to your opponent. But personally, didn't find use for this in my deck. So Blazamut, very cool card, very awesome artwork, but I personally didn't find myself playing this one in my deck. As a lucky pal goes in the deck, I just found that Jormuntide, Grisbolt, and Ragnarok were better ones to run in the deck. But it is still very strong. You know, I still think it's very viable to play it either way. I just didn't want it. I just didn't find it as useful in my build. That's pretty much all of the actual pals themselves. Let's talk about the structures. This card specifically is probably the best one in my opinion. So having the small pals, you know, assigned to this card, and having some of the other cards that give you wood consumption, yeah, it makes this card very, very useful. It's very easy to get rid of your opponent's pals, especially mid to early game. And the fact that they have to attack it, they have to waste some of their attacks to get rid of it. It is a decent durability, so yeah, this card is very good. And you know, I'll show y'all the profile in a bit. Another very good early game structure. You get 3 wood and you draw a card. Very, very useful. Instead of, you know, spending the 3 to just draw a card, if you have this and one of these small early pals, yeah, it is very nice to have this early on in the game. I don't see myself using that second effect as often, but it does come up. The main thing I think is getting that extra drop plus getting the 3 wood. Flame Cauldron, another great card. All of your pals get that extra 200 boost. It is a very cheap card to have, and whenever you deploy a pal, you get a wood. I think it's very useful. It makes all your weaker pals a little bit more useful, and it makes your strong pals very, very hard to get over. And at only 2 cost, it's a good card. Alarm Bell, I didn't find myself running this card. I didn't think it was that useful. I couldn't really find space for it in the deck that I liked. But you know, it's there. It's not great in my opinion. Stone Pit is very strong at just 1 drop. You get 3 wood right away and you draw a card. It is pretty much only when you assign it, but yeah, I do think that this is one of the more useful ones. You know, it lets you get through your deck faster. It lets you get the wood for future effects. And then finally, I did forget to mention the workbench, the weapon workbench. You consume 1 wood and assign 1 pal. Choose up to 1 pal and deal 800 damage. Choose all of your pals and they get +1 strike until the end of the turn. It's pretty decent. It's not bad. I personally don't play it, but I can definitely see some use to it. You know what? I would maybe even, you know, replace the Ignis Blast for that specific one, or sorry, Ignis Breath. I don't know. I haven't decided 100% yet what I'm gonna do there. This card is also fairly decent, but it does, you know, it reminds me of like early Yu-Gi-Oh when the equip cards are really only good on a specific monster. Same thing. It's decent, but it's really only good on Fox Parks. And yeah, I didn't see myself wanting to play this in the deck. However, Makeshift Handgun is also very useful for early game. You get rid of all of those smaller, weaker guys, and you know, it is very nice to have a cheap gear being able to, you know, give your pals an extra little boost for such a low cost. It's very, very good. Then you have Single Shot Rifle. It is fairly easy to bring this out early game. It does 1500 damage. You can pretty much get rid of any problem card that your opponent has, and it gives you that 200 boost to one of your pals. Very useful. Such an easy card to bring out, and it helps so much with getting rid of something that might have a continuous effect that you know might see a problem within. And then we have the big one here, the 7 cost pump action shotgun. But on deploy, you choose all of your opponent's pals and deal 1200 damage. It's essentially, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, like a Raigeki in a way. It's very, very strong. It is obviously pretty expensive to play at 7 souls, but bringing it out with this here, if you ever hit that card with the Reptiro, it's such a cool clutch move when you get to actually, you know, hit that card with this effect. So you can essentially summon a big guy and wipe your opponent's board if you summon this and hit it with the effect. Instead of paying 15 souls total, you just pay the 8. Very, very cool. And then we do have 3 event cards in this red category here. I guess we can start with the most useful one in my opinion. That is Axial Strategy. At only 4 cost, you can deal damage to one of the pals, get rid of pretty pretty much gets rid of any pal that your opponent has, especially by the time you get to get enough soul to play this, which is going to be early to mid game. Yeah, you can get rid of any problem pal. Another cool thing that you can do is if you do attack, you can stand your pals depending on the number of gears, which is, in this deck you do play, or I like to play, a decent amount of gears. And then the third option, choose all of your opponents 5 or greater pals and they cannot block. That one doesn't come up as much for me personally, or hasn't yet, but yeah, definitely the first effect is the most useful in my opinion. And then we have treasure chest found. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 red or structure or gear from among them and add it to your hand. You shuffle the rest of the cards, but if you do not choose a structure or a gear, you do get 3 wood. Add only a 2 cost. I feel like this is very useful. It's essentially kind of like drawing a card, but if you don't draw a card, you at least get wood. I think it's a no-brainer to play at least 3 of that card in the deck. And then Ignis Breath. It is a quick effect card, so you can play it during your opponent's turn as well. It's, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like a hand trap, or I guess more so if you play Magic, it's like an instant. And you choose 1 pal, deal 500 damage. This one doesn't come up as much as I would like it later in the game. By then, your opponent is, playing stronger pals. 500 damage isn't that strong in a later state of the game. So I do only play 2 of those. I would maybe even cut that card completely. I haven't decided yet, but it is useful sometimes. But overall, I feel like you can maybe run something a little bit better. I think mostly I ran it just to keep the full mono red theme to it, but you can definitely play something better. And then very quickly for the deck profile of the mono red deck that I've been playing, that I've had some pretty decent luck in. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So I've been playing, if you haven't tried this out, it is a Palworld TCG simulator. It's very cool. Not too many people have been playing this yet. I don't really see too many people online, but yeah, it's very cool to at least deck build. You can look at all the cards there and, kind of get an idea, feel for the cards. So I played 3 Fox Parks, the standard one, because you need the little guys for the structures. Played 3 of the Rubies. I played 2 of the Kelpsy Ignis. I played 2 of the Nullify Effect, Nullify Attack ones. I played 2 of the Ragnarok as a lucky pal. I play 2 Blaze Howls, another Nullify Effect. I play 4 Nullify damage, I play 4 of the Nullify damages, 2 of the Toasty Hug, and then 2 of this bigger guy, just in case, depending on what you need. I played 2 of the Grizz Bolts, again for the lucky pals, so 2, and then 4 of Jarman Tide. So those essentially act as like your boss monsters. I do think that out of all the lucky pals, this one is the best one, so that's why I maxed out and played 4 of this guy. And I played 3 of the Reptiro. This guy is just too good, especially for when you get to hit one of the gears and you play a gear for free, especially the pump action shotgun. Like I mentioned earlier, I played 2 Ignis Breath. I don't really know if I want to play this one at 2. I'm really thinking I'm going to remove this one completely and either up the number on something else or play the workbench structure. I played 3 of the treasure chests found. I play 4 Axle Strategy. And then for the gears, I play a total of 8. I play 2 makeshift handguns, 4 single shot rifle, and then 2 pump action shotgun. And then I play quite a bit of structures. 3 of the stone pits because it's a cost 1 draw card essentially. I played 3 of the cauldrons. I played 2 primitive furnaces, and then 2 of the mounted machine guns that does the damage. The reason I play more of these is because they're a lot cheaper to summon, and yeah, they're just very useful at a low cost. And this isn't really too much of a finalized version of the deck. I'm still messing around with it a bit more. Playing a mono color isn't ideal. I just kind of like the idea of it. I like the idea of all mono red deck. So, but yeah, I actually have been having a lot of fun with this deck, and I've been doing pretty well. There isn't too many problem, decks, and even when I go up against something that's dual colored, I've actually been doing very well against it. So, unless I'm drawing horrible, I tend to win those games. So, who knows? Once I get to more of a competitive scene in person, and I'll try this deck out, and I'll see how it actually performs against, you know, players that maybe are taking the game a little bit more serious. So anyways, that is the video for today. We will go over the other colors here soon. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all next time.